Welcome back to the Nullified Tech channel here on YouTube, where Jake and I have got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 44, episode 12. That's right. You've got us back, Jake. It's you and I back on Thursday evenings talking about Survivor 44. Did you miss me last week?
Well, I always have a good time with you, Chris, but, everybody was giving me and Kahuna lots of compliments. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
I didn't realize this was a competition, Jake.
I'm just going by what people were saying. That's it.
Yeah. Nah, listen, you and Kahuna did a really good job last week. I did go back and listened to the whole thing afterwards, and I thought, I was like a proud dad, basically. I was like, look at this, us TNT co-hosts getting together, doing a good show. It was good to see, and was very, very happy. So good job on that, Jake. I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be talking Survivor with you because, one of the things I love about the Nullified Take channel at the moment and the way that it's shaping up is that we've got so many different people with different perspectives that are coming together to talk about these shows. Like I get something different from Kahuna. I get something different from you. I get something different from Maki, and I think that's one of the things. That's the secret sauce here on the Nullified Take channel. That combined by the fact that we've got a great live audience that we talk to every single time when we do these lives as well. And I kind of feel like, they're the third or the fourth co-host in this whole relationship, Jack, because they give us so much.
For sure. I love the engagement, I never thought this many people would want to hear me and you talk about Survivor, but here they are.
I firmly believe it's because our live audience knows when they show up, we're going to get them involved. We're going to bring up their comments like Cash Wash over here. Welcome back to the live. We love having you back. Danica, welcome back as well. Christian saying, hey, TNT, love the intro music. Yeah, I mean, it never gets old, does it? Like we've had it for a while now. I haven't changed it. Yeah. I always do like the little, in the background, and I get myself like amped up for the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see you like you have like a punching bag and you're like training, getting ready while it's going.
Yeah, I feel like Rocky, getting ready for the big showdown.
Exactly.
Danica said, we missed you, but Jake and Kona did a great job. I do know they did do a good job. And Scott, welcome back as well, said, hey guys, I really managed to see these live, but I'm here today. Well, Scott, welcome to the live. It's always good to have, you back here on the live. I believe I've seen you in the live once before, but I normally try and take note of people when they're new on the live. I try and take note of who's new to these lives as well. But, a great episode, Jake, a great episode. But I do have a little bit of like a bone to pick with the bloody editors for this episode because they did one of the classics on us here, Jake, where they kind of misled us this whole episode to believe that this is the episode where Yam Yam is going to do the big old blind side. And I was here for it. I was living for the storyline from the beginning to the end. It made sense. I've been saying for a long time, I feel like Yam Yam's going to win this season. The editor's kind of like wanting us to get behind Yam Yam. And in my mind, I already made peace with the fact that we were going to lose one of our favorites in Carolyn this episode, just to be let down at the end. Did you like this from the editors, or were you feeling similar to myself, a little bit let down by the fact that we didn't get to see this great blindside? Nothing against Carolyn, because it would have been, painful to lose it, but I kind of feel like we were let down, like we were, sold a bag of goods and they didn't deliver.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on the same page with that. I feel like they went a bit too overboard with the whole like especially during Tribal, like constantly turning over to Carolyn, where she's like, she's like catching on to like am I being talked about right now? And so it was like, in my head, I'm thinking like, damn, like they're getting her, and she's gonna know about it, and there's nothing
Yeah.
she can do. And I was like, man, this is brutal. But yeah, like you, I came to peace with it. Like, damn, we're gonna lose her. She
Yeah.
was
And
resurrected out of thin air.
yeah, and listen, me and you've spoken about this. I know in other recaps that we've done in the past where there is a big difference in how they edit the US show versus how they edit sometimes the Australian or South African version of the show, where they do let you in on the plan. They let you in on the real plan where you can feel
Mhm.
like, oh, wow, I know what's going to happen. This is going to be this epic, what's the right word for it? Tragedy, basically, when you go to the tribal council, where it's just you're gonna see. We all know the train and smash is coming, but the person who's sitting there who doesn't know, the innocent bystander,
Mhm.
doesn't know it's coming, and we're in on the joke. That's
Yep.
kind of how they play it out on the international franchise. But on the US one, they like to blindside the audience a lot more to get that shock factor from the US audience. I kind of feel like.
Yeah, I feel like we're Carolyn talking to Danny. Is this the fake plan or is this the real plan? Every time a name is brought up, it's like, what? And then sometimes they don't even mention the name of the episode, and then at the end, uh,
Yeah.
they're voted out. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, well, let's read a few more of the comments here before we continue down with this episode. Danica saying, I'm here at the courtesy of my son who volunteered to go to Target to pick up an order so we can have milk for coffee in the morning. I'll need my coffee. Listen, I've got a coffee right here at the moment. I definitely, I get it. Caffeine is life. Are you a bit of a caffeine addict as well, Jake, or do you stay away from it?
Oh, I've got my Coke right here. I drink Red Bulls fairly often. I'm ashamed. I
Yeah.
drink coffee as well. Yeah. I didn't used to be a coffee drinker, and then once I hit 20, it's like I feel like
Mm,
obligated to, like as an adult, like I
yeah.
have to. And then I'm like, why? It just like started to taste good. It was kind of weird. It was like a
You
switch.
know, you know what happened with me? Like, I never used to be able to drink red wine at all. Hated the taste of red wine. And then when I hit my mid 20s, like 25, 26, I was on a work trip flying from Auckland to Melbourne. And because it was work, they flew me business. So it was the first time ever being in business. I think they call it first class over here in America,
Hmm.
I've learned. And I was sitting there and they're like, oh, would you like some wine? And I'm like, yeah, I never have it, but I'm flying first class, I'm flying business. Let's just
Hmm.
try it. And similar thing happened to me where I had it and I was like, oh, suddenly it just tasted good. And it's weird how your taste
It's
buds
yeah,
changes as you grow older, basically.
for sure. Or like other foods that you didn't like as a kid. When you grow
Yeah.
older, like I used to hate fish. Now I like love it. I love sushi. Love like poke bowls. I love them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be my biggest thing. If I was to go out and play Survivor, if you take caffeine away from me, I think the first week I would be like,
Uh,
Shane and talking into like a rock or something. I would just be losing my mind out there, like going cold turkey after having about four cups of coffee a day, not
yeah.
having anything. It would kill me, I think, out there.
Oh, I totally with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look here. Georgette, welcome to the live as well. Christian saying it was an illogical vote out. It was an illogical vote out, I think, from the perspective of us, the audience, because we've been told this whole season that Carolyn is the biggest threat, or she's a big threat. The edit has shown us that. But I feel like certain aspects of Jamie's game was hidden to us for a lot.
Mm,
Like, yes, they made her the funny character. They played the almost clown music for her sometimes when she spoke. But
yeah.
I picked up on this a couple of weeks ago. I think myself and myself and Kahuna spoke about it last week, actually, in the Power Rankings, where we said Jamie seems to be loved by her peers. Like, even when she
Hmm.
was doing like the yoga stuff, people bought into it. Like, yes, you and I and Kahuna can make fun of it, but they were
Right.
all into
Yeah.
it. So you
That's
have to
true.
get buy-in from the rest of the tribe to do things like that.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point because me and Kahuna were kind of clowning on them
Yeah.
in the last podcast. But I guess if it's somebody that you genuinely like that's leading it, you can stomach a few. I don't know how long these things take, 30 minutes to sit down and talk about your feelings if it's somebody that you genuinely like. So it's true, it reflects well on her.
Yeah, like socially, she could have been a bit more of a threat than what we thought. But I did feel I'm kind of in with Scott here, and Scott says I think it would have been Yam Yam's best move to vote her out, but I was scared to death he would, but I didn't want to see her go. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's kind of the dilemma I think we all were sitting with. Like we all knew that for Yam Yam to win the game, his head had to win out over his heart, but
Yep.
in the end it didn't. And he spoke about how difficult it was for him to make this move. But I really thought, that whole confessional that he had in this episode, Jake, where he spoke about the fact that, 26 days or how many days ago they came in there, he didn't know any of these people. It was easy to make these game moves. But now, this late in the game, they've become like family to him out there. And I think that
Yep.
sometimes we as an audience who are not out there playing the game, we just don't get the bonding that happens when people are out there struggling together. They're going through this experience that
Yep.
we just can't relate to. Like, I mean, I don't think watching it on TV, you have a real understanding of the bonding that happens out there.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point. But that's kind of what can set apart Survivor players from each other. Those ones that can push that aside and make the move. I'm thinking Jesse with Cody. They were for sure they were with each other every step of the way, every single day that they were in the game. They were with each other.
Tony
Um,
and Trish.
exactly. These are really hard moves to make, and they know that there's a chance like I could lose their vote. I may not be friends with them after this.
Mm.
But you take that chance and just have to hope and pray that you can, BS your way out of it, like Tony, giving answers at Final Tribal, or that they just respect the move. And Jam just couldn't do it, and I think it's going to come back to bite them.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk
I
about
mean, they're
that.
basically. I feel like the editors are basically saying this will come back to bite them.
I
They're
feel like
telling
the
us.
editors are showing us why he potentially doesn't win the game now. And we'll definitely talk
Yeah.
about that. But I
Mhm.
wanted to explore something that you said there in regards to, you need to trust and hope that this ally you've had this whole game, that they're still going to be willing to vote for you if you vote them out this deep into the game. I mean, Yam Yam and Carolyn, they've spent every single day in this game together. They've been together in the same tribe since the beginning. And I do think that Carolyn, even though she is this emotional player, like she says she is, she does say that doesn't make her a bad player, and she gets the game. She understands the game. So I feel like in the immediate, she would have
Yeah,
been hurt by this, but I feel like she would have given him the vote if he took her out. I think she would
definitely.
have respected it.
Definitely. And, I'm not sure. Maybe he said something along those lines. But to me, it seemed like his real issue was he just didn't want to hurt her. He
Mm.
just couldn't bear the thought of how this could hurt her, this vote. So I don't even know if it was really like, oh, is she going to vote for me? Is she going to tell everybody on the jury not to vote for me and poison them? Um, eh, yeah, it's just like he just couldn't. He just couldn't do it.
I'm now like this whole season. I've been saying I feel like the editors have been wanting us to understand Yam Yam's journey in the game. They've
Mhm.
always shown us his point of view. I thought he had a bit of a winner's edit around him, even though I couldn't see the moves yet. And I believe that he hasn't played the most impressive game out of the Tika 3. In fact, I think out of the Tika 3, he's probably third at the moment
Yeah.
when it comes to it. Like Carson's played a very impressive game. I spoke about it with Kahuna this last episode that we did the power rankings, and I said Carson's placed himself perfectly in the middle coming into this week where he could have continued to work with Jamie and Lauren because he convinced them not to vote against him for a reason. And I think that there was still leeway there, or he could have easily have worked with both, Yam Yam and also Carolyn. So I feel like he's played a really good game. But, looking at this move, I think if we look back now, this is what set, like you said, great players from the not so great players yet. Like Yam Yam, lovable character, great at the confessionals. Maybe he is a Rick Devens. Maybe he is someone that he
Mm,
was the narrator for the whole season, but ultimately he's not going to win it. And it is going to be maybe a Carson or a Carolyn. Like I know that if you look at Edgic, a lot of people are now looking at Carolyn as a winner
Yeah.
since she survived this week.
I mean, it's hard not to look at her because it seems like this entire episode they're screaming, Carolyn's a threat. Carolyn's going to win if she makes it to the end. And we're aware of it now. Us, the players, are aware that if we don't take her out, she could beat us. And then they had the opportunity to and didn't. So what are you supposed to take away from that other than, okay, so they're just not going to be able to take her out, you know? And I think that it was just a weird episode with the editing, you know? And like it was like, oh, are they going to vote Heidi? Like the people who aren't going to vote for Carolyn, it seemed like Jamie was kind of a weird afterthought vote that was
Yeah.
mentioned like once or twice. It was just a weird episode.
I think how the Jamie vote came up, and I watched it for a second time before jumping on this one, which I'm glad I did, because similar to you, I was a little bit confused as to where did the Jamie vote come from. But I think Jamie really dug her grave when she had a conversation with both Heidi and Carolyn back at camp after they lost the reward challenge, because she thought, listen, I'm not going to rely on the fact that I've got this deal with Carson or Yam Yam to go after Carolyn. I'm also going to try and work with Carolyn, and I'm going to try and get Carolyn and Heidi to go after Carson. So for the second week in a row, Carson heard his name come up and that there was a danger of him going home. And I feel like there was more that happened between that conversation we saw with Yam Yam and Carson, where he came over to say, hey, let's vote Carolyn out. And Carson was like, I'm willing to move with you. You're my number one, but I just don't feel like it's the right move. And I think that's probably where he said, listen, they're playing both sides. I don't feel good with Jamie. We need to take her out next. So I think she dug her grave by playing a little bit too hard, but it's hard to punish her for it because the deal with Carson and Yam Yam was never a true deal in Carson's eyes in any case. So she did have to try.
Yeah. And we have to remember she just would have been in a better spot if she would have voted for Carson last week. You know, it's like you're trying to do it now. Why didn't you do it the week before or the vote before when she had the opportunity to? I know I don't want to be like, I know it's probably unlikely that anybody's listening to this from the season, but I do, thinking back on it, feel a little bad how I was talking about her and Lauren in last episode, but I think that this is kind of proving our point, me and Kahuna's, of just would have been in a better spot here, especially now that we see that Heidi was like, I don't trust them because they wrote her name down last tribal. So
exactly,
lots of coulda, woulda, shouldas for them.
Yeah, and listen, it is easy for us, if they are listening to this, it is easy for us to say this. We don't see everything that's going on out there. There is a lot that we miss out on. And we're simply, like, the editor's obviously telling us why Jamie lost. So that's what we're focusing on as well. And I do agree with you. The right move was 100% to vote in that direction, which they didn't do. They didn't go after Carson, clearly because Carson did a good job, or that relationship there was a lot stronger than what we realized. While we're talking about both Jamie and Lauren in the same sort of sentence here, Lauren, one of the things I never really picked up on her, and I noticed that this week when I updated our draft points, she is the only player in the game that has not had a single vote against her. And she's now won 2 immunity challenges, Jake. So she's got a bit of a story if she does get to the end. If she gets to the end, she might be able to say, hey, I've won a couple of immunities. I've equaled for most with Franny now in the game. Who knows? She maybe wins one more and becomes the outright immunity beast of the season. Plus, she's had no votes against her. If she can sneak away until the end, into a final 3, people might underestimate how powerful of a story that could be.
That's a very good point. It all kind of comes down to, okay, what does this jury favor, or what do they value the most? If they're like, okay, yeah, you were on the wrong side of the votes a few times, but you were on the bottom, you crawled your way back up by winning immunities, and hey, you didn't get your name written down. Yeah, that could net her some votes for sure. But I think it's more likely than not that they're going to say, well, you kind of weren't in on most of these votes, if any. I can't remember the last time she voted
It's been a while.
correctly. I'm just looking at the.
Yeah, have a
So,
look at that.
wow. Okay, so she voted for Franny when Franny went home. Other than that, since the. Oh, and she voted for Josh when he went home. But other than that, in the merge, she has voted incorrectly.
Yeah. And I mean, again, that just shows you that Lauren and Jamie should have never trusted Carson, because there's been many a times where he hasn't let them in on the
Right.
actual plan. So, like, if
Right. It's
someone doesn't
like,
let you
yeah,
in, how can you think you've got an alliance with them?
the way that Heidi felt about them is how they should have felt about Carson.
100%.
Yeah.
I would. If someone doesn't let me in on the vote, I'm like, this person's clearly
Yeah.
not working with me. I
Yeah.
do want to read a couple of the comments, and I will read them very soon. I know there's quite a few that have come in, but another thing that I wanted to talk about while we're talking about Lauren winning the immunity, how funny was it seeing people drop like flies before they even got from the first part of the immunity challenge to the second part? And it only ended up being, I believe, Lauren and Heidi who made it past the
Yeah.
first section before they had to like make it more difficult on them. Again, I believe it's an advertisement for why they should be given a bit more food than what they're getting out there, because I'd much rather see like proper battles. Like, it was a bit of a
Mhm.
letdown to me, you know. No, I mean, obviously, all the respect in the world for Lauren for winning it and for Heidi for hanging in
Mhm.
there. But like, Jeff looks at this as a good thing. Oh, you know, food fatigue. And that's why people are dropping out like this. I don't know. Like, is that entertaining? Do you find that entertaining, Jake? Or would you rather see like a real showdown?
Oh, for sure. I'd rather see a proper showdown. But if I'm being honest, I'm not a huge challenge guy in the first place, mainly because most of them are just kind of the same. If they kind of freshen them up, then maybe I'd care more. I mean, if I'm, you know, uh, strapped for time, I just skip them, you know. So, but if they're gonna keep it like this, then of course I'd rather, yeah, have there be some proper showdowns. I didn't even really think about that. I guess the past times they've done this challenge, they make it way farther. They make it where there's multiple balls on the
Yeah.
plate. They didn't even get to that. But I mean, I'm sitting here saying this challenge looks so hard. I would be so bad at it, especially once you move up a step. I'd just be terrible at these balance type things.
I think I'd be good at the balance part of it. I'm not too worried about that. Again, it's having to be there for like an hour. Like, I might not have struggled in this one because everybody dropped off, which seemed to be
Yeah,
like with
yeah.
under half an hour. I'm pretty sure I could go for half an hour. I'm pretty sure I could make an hour. It's when it gets past that hour mark, I think it's going to be like a real test to stand still for that long. Let's get back into a couple of the comments here. Quite a few have come in since we've last read them. Cashwash is saying the conflict I felt. So I think I've seen that one. Cash was saying, I'm personally a hot tea drinker myself. Hot tea is good. Don't hate on that. Danica says that I like hot tea in the wintertime, but I live in Florida, so we get
Hmm.
winter in February for about a month. I've been enjoying the Florida weather. I love this heat, like especially coming from New Zealand, where it's like winter at the moment, and we hardly had a summer because we've had very strange weather this over in Auckland. A lot of floods, a lot of rain, summer rain. It's been weird. It's not been great. Danica saying once it hits the low 70s, I reach for a sweater or a jacket. We don't have winter clothes here. It's pretty funny because when it gets cold, kids come to school, bundle up in blankets. um, Danica saying, I think at this point it has to be like Tika 3. They're not going to be able to vote each other out. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's one last hope here for Yam Yam, Jake. Like, if he does make the move this next episode, he goes with, but now you've got to ask yourself, who does he go with?
Mm.
Carolyn has said she knows she can't sit next to Carson at the end. So she may be willing to go against Carson, but I feel like Yam Yam sees Carolyn as a bigger threat than Carson to begin with. So
Yeah.
what is the play for Yam Yam? This could still be setting up this next vote. Like, there could still, I think, like a lot of people are saying, okay, he didn't take the stab now, he's not going to take it next round. But Carolyn hasn't shown herself to be good at immunity, so she might still be up for grab next week.
She's definitely going to be up for grabs at Final Five, especially. I think, because there's no fire making, and at least from what we saw, she doesn't have an idol. So, but is she gonna? I think she might go revenge mode too, because she saw her name twice, and she's gonna say, "Why did they vote for me? Who
Mm.
told them? Who told them that? Who is indulging them in
She looked
in
very
this
annoyed
plan?"
by the end of the episode. Very
Yeah,
annoyed.
very annoyed. So
Yeah.
I think she turned to them and said, "WTF?" and was like, "Okay, I know you guys obviously didn't vote for me, but they did. So you were involved in that somehow." So I mean, Carolyn let Carson in on it when his name was being thrown around. Carson didn't do the same for her. I think she's going to go after Carson at Final Five, then potentially Yam Yam at 4. But even if she's not able to take him out, and he wins fire making, I still think she could beat him in the end. I think she's set up well. Probably, I mean, as well as she could be right now. Only thing that would make it better is if she won immunity or an idol, got an idol.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, Yam Yam was saying that she is really good at fire too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that she's definitely got a good shot at winning it if she gets to the end. But this next week, this is what's going to show us if she actually gets there. And if we do see Yam Yam still pulling the trigger, maybe moving with Carson, maybe moving with a Heidi or
Yeah.
a Lauren who's seeing.
Or also, Heidi is always talking about how she thinks Yam Yam is a threat. Maybe she wants to pull the trigger on him or Carson. It seems like Heidi might be kind of the key in all this for Carolyn, because I don't think she's seeing what everyone else is seeing on Carolyn. If they
Mm,
um, if they can just convince one more person to go with them, I think if they can convince Lauren,
mm.
then could be game over.
It's getting close to the end now. So, Danica, you could be right. We could see a Tika 3 or at least a Tika 2 in that final three, because it's
I
getting
don't
pretty close to it.
see I don't see it being all three of them. I just don't. I think there definitely could be two of the three, but I think at least one of them is gonna get knocked out.
Yeah. Is this the best alliance that we've seen in like forever? Like when last have we seen a three-person alliance just dominate the game in such a fashion? Like I can't even remember the last time we've seen it on our screen.
Um, I don't know. I
Would
think
it be
this is
Stephen Fishback, JT, and who was
Taj.
the Taj? Yeah, would that be the last three? Well,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I don't
or
know if you.
perhaps
I don't know if you count Jerry and Russell and Parvati as three together because Jerry kind of came in late.
yeah. I don't know about that. They weren't really
Hmm.
aligned from the beginning,
Yeah, I don't know.
like the others were. I think you're right. I think it's definitely been a while. I'll say
It's
that.
been a minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep reading through some of these comments. Liz is saying, I don't think Jam Jam's relationship with Carolyn was the reason he didn't vote her out. I think Carson convinced them not to vote her out, and he wants to remain aligned with Carson. I think so as well. That's kind of what we mentioned
Yeah,
earlier in the live. I don't know if you
true.
were in for that, but I think Carson was the glue once again in the TK3, which he's been this whole season. Danica saying Carolyn's easy excuse for playing the idol for Carson was that she wanted to get out Danny, and I thought the vote was Carson. I'm surprised that she didn't say that. Yep. I don't think anybody blames her for playing. I think everybody understands that it was the right move to play
But
the idol on him.
she did kind of over explain. Well, not kind of. She very much over explained everything at the
Yes,
beginning, and
she
we
should have
didn't
left
really.
that. She should have left
Yeah,
all of that extra information for the final tribal council because, like Yam Yam said, he always knew that she was a good player, but now everybody knows it because she's telling them, she was the bandit. She was the person who put the X there and misled them to try and go get an idol. And people are starting to look at it differently because they're like, oh, she isn't just this over the top crazy personality. I mean, one of the funniest scenes with Carol in this episode was when Jam Jam came back from the reward and she's like, "Can you burp in my face so
oh
I
my
could smell the food?" Like, it's such a Carolyn thing to do. Yeah, it's like,
god. She's she is one of a kind.
the producers must just be like, man, we struck gold with this one.
Holy
Like,
crap! Yeah,
I hope whoever casted her on the show gets a really good bonus paycheck at the end of the
yeah.
season because they deserve it.
Apparently, she. This doesn't surprise me at all. She only applied once. Lots of people are like, "Oh yeah, it took me like five to 10 tries before they finally got me on." Carolyn, nope, applied once, boom. And it's like, yeah, the second they watched her video, I'm sure they're like, "Yep." And I don't. They're definitely not disappointed. That's for sure. They
Yeah.
struck gold.
Scott saying exactly, Jacob would have hurt Yam Yam to vote her out, maybe more than it would have hurt her. She would have been pissed, but she would have gotten over it. I agree. Sweet Cake Bracelet says once she came out with merch before the season even aired, it made it obvious she wouldn't make the final at least. And I think that's Jamie. Quite a few of them have come up with merch this season. That seems to be a new trend now for people. Jake, if you were
Yeah.
able to get out on there, are you already working on your ideas for merch?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna convert this into merch. You can buy this statue here. I can't think of anything else.
I'm surprised Carson didn't do something with the 3D printed puzzles. Like he should have
Yeah,
started his puzzle shop. Like
I
if you want
guess
to be as
because
if you want to be as good of a Carson puzzle master out on Survivor, you should be using the Carson
yeah,
3D tried and tested puzzles.
the Carson O-Matic 3000. He should have
Yeah,
named it like. Um, but with Carson, he came out with it before the season even started.
yeah, I
So
know.
yeah, if he was gonna be talking about that, they're gonna be like,
There's a lot
"What
of
is this?
people
What is this
who
referring to?"
there's a lot of people who don't like the fact that they're doing all this extra merch and stuff like that. Where I'm like, I honestly don't care. Like, I mean, it doesn't bother me. Like, I probably won't buy it, but I can't hate the hustle. If you need to make some money, go make some money.
Yeah, but
Maybe Survivor should be a little bit more strict on it, just so that people can't say, well, clearly they didn't win because they're trying to make money
mm,
outside of the game.
right. I think that's what most people assumed,
Yeah.
which he's made it very far. But I think what the first thing that people assumed is, oh, this guy's getting voted out first. He just wants to, he knows that he's not going to be on the show for very long. So because you make more money the more episodes you're on in the US version. So he wanted to make as much money as he could. That's definitely not the case. He didn't need
Yeah.
to do it. But I see that his website has been shut down since I think it was only up for like a day, and then because I think he had some shirts that were basically just the Survivor 44 logo on it, and it's like, yeah, that's definitely copyrighted or
He's
trademarked.
supposed to
Like,
be he's supposed to be like a rocket scientist or something like that.
couldn't
Like
figure that out. Yeah,
couldn't figure that out. Denica says, yeah, have we seen them start to add up jury votes? Even if it's Tika 3, who gets the votes? Same for Lauren or Heidi. If most of the jury isn't Tika, if a non-Tika is up there, they might get the votes. I think Carolyn, and I spoke about this in the power rankings, right? I think Carolyn obviously has Franny. Because she has Franny, she's got Matt, because they're going to be a package together.
yeah,
I do think that that there is this bond between the mothers out there as well. So maybe like a Heidi, a Jamie seems to really respect. Even Lauren had a scene with her this specific episode where she said, Carolyn's a little bit of a strange one, but she really likes her, and it's like this weird dichotomy between her crazy personality, but also her being a good player that she respects out there. And then she had this whole scene where they were looking for the idols, and she said, I think I saw something up there. She tried to get it to climb to go get a coconut, and Carolyn's like, no.
that was a really good scene.
Yeah.
I
So I feel
think,
like there's a bond. There's a bond forming between some of these ladies. So I mean, Carolyn could easily pick up any of those votes. Danny is the one I don't know. I don't know if Danny could put his differences
mm,
aside, but
yeah,
I think Carolyn's got a lot of votes. Like I really think if she gets to the end, she could get it.
yeah, and then I don't know about Brandon either. I
Yeah,
can't
Brandon, I don't know. Yeah.
can't read what he's thinking.
Brandon would
Um,
vote Lauren because he was close to Lauren in the game.
that's
He
true.
seemed to have a good relationship with Carson as well in the game. I don't really know if
Right,
him and
because
Yam Yam ever had any kind of like relationship in the game.
yeah, that's true. Carson was swapped onto that tribe for a couple days. He seemed to be in good with everybody.
Kane would vote for Carson most likely. That's why I'm still finding it hard. Like, even though the edit has shown us so much of Yam Yam, I find it so hard to see how does Yam Yam win.
The
Because
only
to me,
person
Yam Yam, outside of being the narrator, I don't feel like he's played the best game out. Like, he hasn't played a bad game, but I don't necessarily like. I feel like the edit is telling us, look at Yam Yam. When I'm like,
I think
he's played a
yeah,
game, but I don't know if he's played the best game. Like, he could have played the best game this week. He could have taken out the biggest threat. He didn't.
yeah. I think he has been kind of like the Grim Reaper of like, this is who I want gone, and then that person goes. And for
Yeah,
a
but
while, it was because they
can I just
they
add, but
wrote his name down.
100%. But can I just add, like, even though he's had that, I feel like he's been the second in charge to
Oh yeah,
Carson
I
most of the
agree.
time. You know what I
I
mean? Like,
agree.
I don't feel like he
Yeah.
was the one necessarily making those decisions. I
Mhm.
just feel like it just so happened to be who Carson wanted out as well, and whoever
Yeah.
the alliance was. But I feel like Carson's been like the front runner. So
Mhm.
I can see
Mhm.
Yam Yam winning if both Carson and Carolyn doesn't get there. But if they both get there, I still feel like they're ahead of him at this point.
The only person I see voting Yam Yam over Carolyn or Carson is Heidi. Seems like Heidi kind of has the most praise for him throughout
Mm.
this entire season. Always, always mentioning how likable he is. Always mentioning how much she wants to work with him.
But they've
Uh,
got the Puerto Rican connection, and again,
that's
it's just
true. That's
it's
true.
the cultural thing, and it's strange because like, I don't know how to say this in a very politically correct way, but if you saw different people do that, they'd be like, oh, that's not good because you've got a black alliance forming or you've got a white alliance, but people are not looking at that this way, which is good, by the way, because I don't think we should be looking at things. Oh, that's a black alliance, or that's a white alliance, or this is
Mhm.
a Puerto Rican alliance. But it just once again shows you that if you've got the same upbringing, if you're from the same area and you've had similar experiences growing up, you're going to gravitate towards each other. That's why people have fought for diversity on the show because they've wanted to see people that they can relate to, on the show. So I'm not shocked at all by the fact that Heidi and Yam Yam do seem to get along and that they, to a certain degree, do want to work together, and
Mhm.
I'm sure that they're finding it quite special that there are two Puerto Ricans out there that are playing the game.
Yeah, for sure. It does seem to be a bit one-sided, though. Seems
Yeah,
Heidi
Yam
likes.
Yam's more business and Heidi is
Yeah,
like, yeah. But I mean,
yeah.
also, I feel like Yam Yam's got the moral high ground because Heidi used Lauren's vote against him. So technically, like, she's the
Mhm.
only one he hasn't voted out yet that has come for him.
That's true. Yeah, the pattern did not continue. He
Yeah.
still has some business.
All right, let's see here. Danica says, have we seen them start to, we've already sort of spoken about that a little bit. Christian says, no votes cast against her is a huge resume for Lauren. Agreed. Does it seem like there is less endurance competitions in Survivor these days? Um, We've had a few this season. I feel like we've had a few already endurance challenges because I
Yeah.
remember saying, previously as well. But it's just the thing that I feel like is happening, and you touched on that earlier, Jake, is that we're seeing too much repetition of certain challenges. Like, I know you don't watch the challenge, but that's something like the challenge has got its flaws. And if anybody has seen the latest episode, please don't spoil it in the chat because I still have to go watch that after this. But one of the things I do like about them is they continue to innovate with their daily challenges. They continue to bring new, like there is repetition as well, but there's always a good, like I'd say 60% new, 70% new stuff being brought into the game. So I feel like Survivor needs to up the ante a little bit. Danica saying, I agree, Jake. I've turned out the challenges sometimes too. I don't need to watch. Jeff seems to give play by play, so I can't hear it.
Yeah, just
Um,
listen.
I will say Jeff's play by play, talking about the balls and how you need to like work with it softly. I was like, if this was Jonathan LaPaglia from Australian Survivor, there would have been a whole thing about that for sure.
Yeah, or I know it wasn't in this season, but in the past they've done it where he's like balls dropping, balls clanking together, and I'm just like, Jeff, you're not hearing yourself
No,
say
he
these
was like
things.
something like, you've got to have a soft touch to the balls or something. I don't know. He was getting out there for me as well.
Yeah, maybe he's
Kahuna
doing it
say,
on purpose.
maybe. Kahuna saying, we're in the winter now. It sucks. The only good thing about winter is mandarins. Yeah, listen, but,
Mandarin.
but mandarins is like a fruit, I
Oh, like
think.
orange, Mandarin
Yeah,
orange.
I think so.
Uh,
I don't get it either. I'll have to ask Kuna. It must be an Australian thing. I have to
huh.
ask him afterwards. Jay's saying, hey, Jamie said that Kane was a close ally of his in her exit interview. So too did Franny and Matthew from Ratu in her exit interview. So maybe he was a better player than we thought. Yeah, maybe. But I don't know. Kane didn't seem to have good reads, like social reads of what was going on.
I'll just the thing I'm going to think about with Kane anytime I think about this season is how the episode that he was voted out in, he started the episode saying, "Oh, it's on. Oh, you're going to see strategist Kane now," and then is subsequently voted out immediately. So it's just like he just never really got it going.
Yeah. Jay saying not necessarily good at fire, but practice until her hands bled. So that's what Yam Yam said about
Oh, right,
obviously
yeah,
Carolyn. And Sweet
yeah,
Cakes is saying that Samoa or South Pacific 3. Yeah, the South Pacific 3 would probably be
that's true. Yeah,
the last one, but still a long time ago, eh? Scott said, admittedly, it's unlikely, but how fun would it be for Carolyn to win an immunity? It would be against the play at the moment. Like,
yeah,
she hasn't really done anything in the individual part of the game when it comes to the challenges, but who knows? Like, there could still be something she could be good at. Christian's saying, hey guys, I think we're going to have a tie vote in the finals like Ghost Island. Bold predictions. Ooh, that would be. Can you imagine like Yam Yam? Can you imagine Yam Yam, Carolyn ties up, and Carson has to make the deciding vote? Like that would be some top tier entertainment for the end of the
yeah.
season.
Wow, wow, yeah. Who would he would pick Carolyn?
I think. Well, he said to Yam Yam that he's been his number one this whole season, but I don't know if he was being
But
truthful.
he was saying he's like, I see Carolyn as my biggest threat right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So you might respect it. Yeah. Danica saying this season is so middle school, burping and farting, 100%.
It's true.
Sweet Cake saying kind of spoils that they make it far.
I think she was talking about the merch.
Right, yes. That they're actually going to be significant, and that's why they could sell something.
You could see it both ways.
Yeah. So yeah, Cash Wash. Thanks for bringing this up. Everyone bringing their stuff to Tribal was great. So they're starting to figure out.
They're catching on.
Yeah, like Jeff's constantly like trying to mix the game. Oh, we got to stay ahead of the players and keep them on their toes. But the players, man, like you can't do that. You just can't do it. And hats off to them for doing that and thinking ahead. Because I didn't get it immediately. I was like, why are they bring? Oh, right, they're going to swap the island again, which to me is such a. Why are we doing this again? Why are we getting them on a new island?
Yeah. They did it once in Island of the Idols, and I remember thinking, okay, kind of a cool twist, because they had like they got even new buffs, and there was like an idol clue on the buff. I remember thinking, yeah, this is a cool like one-time, one-off twist. And then they did it again in 41 and 42 and 43, and now again I'm just like, huh? Like I just don't really get it.
They got to go to Rob's shelter that he built that whole season, so it was an upgrade.
Now it's this is a downgrade. They have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
But I unfortunately think that Jeff is not going to take this how I did, and it's like, maybe we should switch things up and not make the same twists.
You know what I think. You know what I think he's going to do next season? Every single cycle, they're going to go to a new island. He's just going to be like, you go to the Ratu island this week. Next week, you're going to go to the Tika. The week after that, you're going to go to Soka. I feel like he's just going to
he's just going to put it in random order. Like, okay, here for 2 cycles, here for 1 cycle, here for 3 cycles. Like, and we're just going to be like, okay.
Why are we doing this again?
Yeah, like
how does this add to the entertainment of the show? I don't know.
Because this is first and foremost a TV show. I get for them it's actually significant, but for us,
were you surprised that we didn't see an idol being hidden again after this week? Because we spoke about it in the power rankings. Myself and Kahuna, we were convinced that an idol would go back into play. Obviously, mad respect for Heidi for showing that hustle. She's already got an idol in her pocket. She's getting up early in the mornings. She's going and looking for it. Like obviously Carson spots her doing it, but this is why I don't believe that players are given idols. There are just certain players that work harder than others, and Heidi
Mhm.
has got that in her. Like I've got mad respect for Heidi after this. I feel like Heidi is a player. Like I wouldn't mind seeing her come back because she does put in the work.
Yeah, no, she's definitely not just, sitting there letting the action happen in the background. She's actually, you know, being an active player. But did it get confirmed that there was no idol? Because I know we saw people searching and nothing happened, but um,
We
I
don't know.
thought
I
there
mean,
was, yeah,
it didn't look like anybody got it, but and they've never really done a moment outside of the Matthew Idol hunt that we saw earlier in the
yeah,
season. They've never really done that before the Matthew Idol hunt, so I doubt they'll do it twice in the season where
yeah,
suddenly Heidi does play a second idol and she's like, I actually did find it last week. I don't know if that's going to
right.
be the case.
But yeah, I was about to say that I saw that theory on Reddit and was like
Hmm.
that maybe that's why Heidi played her idol this episode when obviously she didn't receive any votes, so it came off as pointless. But yeah, I think that's giving her too much credit.
I do think that if I was in Heidi's shoes, I was surprised she didn't play it last week. Because if I saw someone play an idol on the person I voted for, and I knew I've been copying votes
Yeah,
every single tribal
yeah.
before that, I would be playing my idol. So I don't think it's a bad thing that she played her idol because,
No, I agree.
yeah,
Yeah,
how much could she really trust them at this point?
I was,
They've
I yeah, I
you
was
go
just
ahead.
about to say that. On Reddit, I saw people were very, very critical of her play, just being pointless, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, you guys realize she's received votes like what, two tribals in a row, three tribals in a row,
I just don't think that a
three
lot of people on
or
Reddit
two?
look at the game similar to how
Yeah.
we look at it. Like, what would it feel like being in Heidi's shoes, not seeing the edited show,
Hmm.
not knowing that she's not
Yeah.
even up for discussion this week? She only knows that she's cop votes. She keeps seeing Yam Yam and Carson going off and talking to the other two girls a lot. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you got to look at that and say, well, it's a good chance. And I mean, if I was Heidi, I actually think it was the right move for her to play because you'd rather play that idol than have a souvenir. In fact, these days, you don't even get the souvenir. You don't even get to take it home. Apparently, they take it off you immediately afterwards. You
Yeah.
don't get to keep it because probably they'll do Ghost Island season 2 at some point.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh, yeah. I agree. It's hilarious. The people on, us fans are so critical of these people. Just like when they get voted out with it, we clown them. When they play it when they don't need to, we clown them. It's like
Yeah.
one of those is clearly better than the other. You
Yeah.
know?
Listen, I would take clowning from the fans every day if
Yeah.
I played an idol and I didn't get voted out. But what I wouldn't want to do is be the person that held on to an idol and got voted out with it in my pocket.
For sure. For sure.
You've got to ask yourself what would make you sleep at night? And having had an idol in my pocket being voted out, I would sleep a lot more difficult than knowing I actually played my ammunition.
Yeah, it's very similar to, somebody that tried to make a move at Final Five, but it failed and they got voted out versus not making the move, making it to Final Tribal with somebody and losing.
100%.
It's, yeah.
All right, let's read a couple more of the comments here. Danica saying Yam Yam is like Matt on AU. Matt had an opportunity to get George. This was Yam Yam's opportunity to get out Carolyn. Yes, but I feel like Yam Yam's done more than Matt. Like I've seen that comparison before. I feel like Matt was extremely passive. Where I don't feel like Yam Yam at least have had targets in mind, like Jake said earlier, and they have gone home. Where
Mhm.
Matt kind of felt like whatever he was told, he was doing. But I do feel like Yam Yam has got more of an equal partnership arrangement with Carson. Like they bounce ideas off each other, where I never really saw Matt bounce ideas off George, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
I do get the comparison in regards to he should have pulled the trigger.
Yeah, maybe a more apt comparison is Jerry, because at least George actually took Jerry's input seriously
Yeah.
versus Matt.
The Passion Fluid, welcome back to the live. It's been a while since I've seen you here. She says, I think it's pretty lame that so many of the challenges only last a few minutes these days. Even a so-called epic finish, it does feel so silly to be like, congrats, you lasted 5 minutes. Yeah, it's kind of what we said earlier as well. Kahuna Vision
Yeah.
says, yeah, in Australia, orange is an orange and Mandarin, orange is a mandarin. So they grow in the winter. Next on the horticultural hour, bell pepper versus capsicum. Jay saying maybe alliances aren't dead anymore. Do you all think that future players will be inspired to stick with their original tribes pre-merge after seeing the success of the Tika 3, Jesse and Cody in 43? I think that the problem that we have is that Jeff is trying to sell that narrative and play a fast game, go full tilt boogie, and like he's really giving airtime to people talking about there is no alliances. That I feel like the average viewer looks at that and they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. There is no alliances. I don't feel like they're really like, even in the, like, are they really promoting the TK3 as an alliance? They should. The show should be like, oh man, best alliance we've seen in years come together to run this game. But I don't think that Jeff wants to promote that. Even if you listen to his podcast, he always talks about you don't want an alliance to run the game. Like you want there to be a constant mix up. That's what he thinks is entertaining.
Yep.
And it is, and just not to be like, I don't want to be too overly critical on Jeff on that, because I do think that sometimes having a big alliance running the game can be boring, can make it very stale. But I do think that there's that balance that we keep talking about. It just feels like Jeff doesn't understand the intricacy of a balance. Like you want a little bit of allegiance, a little bit of an alliance, and then you want a little bit of twists, but you don't want to just go overkill on either side.
Yes, I was basically about to say something very similar to that. I was going to say, even though I don't watch Big Brother, I've heard that's a big criticism, is that it seems like just alliances just kind of run the game, and then have to eat each other, and then whoever makes it out is the winner. You don't want to have either side of that extreme. For a couple seasons, it's been like no alliances at all. It's just like anybody's fair game, just hopping from one person to another. And that can be fun for one season, maybe two, but there's got to be a mix up. Kind of what, yeah.
For me, this is what makes Survivor so great, is the fact that we've seen the Tika 3 as an alliance this whole season, and there was this whole story around them this episode. Will they break up? Will Yam Yam betray his friend in the game? That's what I love to see. Like the same with JT, and will Stephen Fishback be able to cut JT? Is JT going to cut Stephen going into the end? Like, it's seeing these bonds form, or having Lauren having to break the vote between Wendell and Dom and her. That's what makes it so great. But if it's too individualistic, it feels like the relationships don't have any weight to them. So seeing the betrayals, it means less to me. Like when I watch it, I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I expected Cody to cut Jesse, or Jesse to cut Cody, because that's just the game we're playing. There is no more allegiances. So you don't feel the hurt.
Yeah. Or the same with Marianne and Omer, or Ricard and Shan, especially Ricard and Shan. They had a weird pact with each other where it's like, yeah, we'll vote each other out eventually.
Yeah.
Like it just, it wasn't quite as real as this, where it's like genuine struggle.
Yeah. Scott says in the tie, I think Carson would vote Carolyn. Yep. Danica says, I wouldn't be surprised if someone did find an idol, but the edit is saving it for the last episode. Yeah, it could be. I mean, we spoke about that a little bit earlier. Scott says now that they're on a new beach, there could be a new idol there, or a different advantage for the final challenge, like there normally is. They normally leave an advantage there for or the final 5 challenge. Jay says, but Heidi played pretty poorly this round, Chris. She could have shook things up, made a big move, forced the rock draw by the Tikas, or just played it on Jamie and idled out Carolyn. I think the problem, like, I get where the criticism is coming from for Heidi. I get it. And we don't know if she tried or if she didn't try. But I think in Heidi's mind, what makes it really hard is that she knows that those 2 players, both Jamie and Lauren, have voted for her in the previous round. So she feels like, and this is where, again, Jake brought it up earlier, this is where the really good players are made. They can still find a way to go back, and Kahuna has said this about Yam Yam earlier this season, where he could still go back to camp and say, "You all voted for me. I didn't go home. You may think it's going to be awkward. It is, and he made a big joke about it, and everybody laughed, and then he reworked, and that's his superpower. But Heidi seems to be just in her nature, seems to be like, if you've gone against me, you're against me, and yeah. I don't know if I'm talking in circles here, if I'm making any sense. I just think that she
No,
probably
I
didn't feel
get
like
it,
she could. She probably just didn't feel like she could trust them. And
which is
yes,
totally fair.
is it a poor move? Maybe it is a poor move.
Well, in hindsight, knowing what we know,
Yeah,
knowing that Jamie and Lauren actually had no intention of voting her out, but how is she supposed to know that? She just cop votes from them 3 tribals in a row. What is she supposed to take from that? So yeah, I find myself as we're talking about this kind of becoming more sympathetic towards
yeah.
Heidi. I was fairly critical, similar to people online, but yeah, when you think about like she just didn't trust them. It's
She
and
she doesn't
that's
see the
that's a
show.
fault on, and she doesn't see what we're seeing, and it's more of a
Yeah,
fault on Jamie and Lauren because they weren't able to um, make the right move last week, which now made Heidi not trust them.
yeah. Jared says here, this is a good point. Many were critical of this. And then Jay says, at this point, Heidi just seemed content to go with the Tika to final three and lose essentially just. Well, here's the thing. I think that Heidi backs herself to make the fire. Like we've seen the even last week, the package from home where she was training and getting ready to go out there. She was practicing fire in her backyard. Like she's good when she gets to final four. Her goal is get to final four, make the fire, get to final three. I think that's her game plan. I just think she's backing herself.
Mm-hmm.
That's if she can get there, because if Lauren wins another immunity, she's next online. And they're running. They're running out of runway. Jared says, I disagree. She was paranoid, Jay, and didn't trust Lauren or Jamie. They just tried voting. Yeah, they just tried voting it out. I think so as well. Jay says, Jamia made the right move sticking with Carolyn. Carolyn isn't going to win an immunity. She's likely not the best firemaker, so he has time to get her out. If he does, yeah. So that's what we said. Maybe she's going next. Maybe she's a final five, and that's where he still pulls the move. Jay says, I get that, Jared, but you have to make a big move by letting the Tikas get to for such a big threat. She's just choosing which Tika she's losing to at this point. Got to take a big swing to win. I get it, but the problem is she also needs the numbers. And I'm not convinced she felt like Heidi and Jamie would give her those numbers, because Heidi and Jamie have been trying to work with them the whole season. So if we can be critical of Heidi 100%, but I think we should be even more critical of both Lauren and Jamie, who have been betrayed by Carson many times up until this point, and they're
Yeah,
still wanting to work with them, which is forcing Heidi's hand and where she's got to play, because she's like, well,
yeah.
I've tried to work with other people in the game, but they've not come with us. They didn't
And,
vote with us when Danny and I tried to get them to vote with us. They haven't moved against Carson previously. So what am I to do? Like, I feel like to put all the blame on Heidi is difficult on this one. Like the blame should
yes,
be shared, and
definitely.
I feel like it should be even more on Jamie and Lauren, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also, um, we're only going off of what the edit is showing us.
Yeah,
We saw Jamie and Lauren say out loud, huh, yeah, this Carolyn chick, she's pretty dangerous. Maybe we should do something about that. And we didn't seem to see them talk to Heidi as much. I know then Janie was trying to get on Carson
yeah,
with Carolyn at camp with Heidi, and I could just be not remembering, but I don't
yeah.
remember seeing a scene with Lauren or Jamie talking to Jam Jam and Heidi, or Carson and Heidi, about, hey, let's take out Carolyn,
Yeah.
because they ended up voting for Carolyn,
The
but
only other vote that Jamie was open to was a potential Carson vote, but how
right.
truthful she was being, I don't know.
And
I
did
just
did
wanted
we
to
even
say,
see? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say, Jay, you know, you said fair enough, guys, and true, Jamie and Lauren do deserve criticism as well. I hope you know I love the fact that you're challenging our way of thinking, because you're you challenging it and putting it out there is making me and Jake think about it. And my philosophy is, if we can't explain our own reasoning to why we think in a certain way, then you've got a point. So, so you're part of the conversation as much as anything else. So just because we didn't agree with your take on this doesn't mean that, your take was bad. It's actually helped us think it through and think about what could we have missed or what is different. Because at the end of the day, none of us really know what happened out there because we only see in this small snippet, right?
Well, and I think it's kind of hard to articulate this, but knowing what we know, it was a bad move. Only knowing what she knew, it wasn't really. But yeah, if we're just looking at what we're seeing, then yeah,
we're trying not to just be results focused, which I think that fans sometimes get very results focused, and we're trying to look a little bit deeper than that. I didn't come into this recap thinking that we were going to talk about Heidi's gameplay as much as we have.
I totally didn't think that either, that I'd be coming in, knight in shining armor for Heidi, but
yeah. But hey, I mean, this is what makes it fun. So Scott says any player who thinks there's no alliances isn't paying attention. That will always be true. There will always be alliances. I agree. Saying Final 5 advantage challenge. Yep, I think that's what's going to happen. Danica says, who does Carolyn vote for if she's on the jury, Carson or Yam Yam? That's a tough one. I don't know.
She's like equally close with them, I feel like she called Carson her baby, which might be honestly kind of a bad thing. She might kind of see him as like, aw, but also she has said like he's a threat. So that's a really tough one. I have no idea.
She said she can't. She said she can't sit next to him at the end.
Yeah, so she recognizes he's played a good game.
So she might.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, no idea.
Jared says Carson is literally outplaying and outwitting, and if he makes the fun free, he wins handedly. I think so as well. I really think, and that's why we had Carson as our number 1 ranked player on our power rankings last week as well.
Yeah,
for a good reason. Zuduman, it's been a while since you've been here on the live. It's always good to see you back. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Jay saying, and you guys are helping me broaden my perspective as well. So we're helping each other. There we go. That's all. Like, that's what it is. Like, that's why I love doing this. I know it's a little bit different from a lot of the other recap review shows out there, because a lot of other recap reviews just talk about the episode with their co-host, but we like to nut it out with you, the live audience, at the same time, because you also have some great perspectives and see it differently. Like, we've got 21 people listening to us right now. And when you think about it, 23 minds put together, somewhere in the middle, I'm sure we can come up with the truth, right, Jake? Yeah, you hope. Scott saying no one should have trusted Carson either through the whole game. He's the most competent liar this season. Yeah,
he's played very well. With especially this episode, it's been kind of, you've brought it up, how Lauren and Jamie have been burned by him so many times, and they even tried to get a vote on him this episode, but then didn't. And they're like, yep, we'll just go with you. It's like crazy. And he's, his name's been thrown out 2 episodes in a row. We also, said it was a good move for Carolyn, for her to play her idol on him. That also reflects really well on him, that he's able to cultivate such a good relationship with somebody that they're willing to play an idol for him. I feel like that hasn't been talked about enough either.
I think sometimes it can actually be more positive to you as the player that got that idol played on you than the person who actually plays it, because how strong is your social capital with that person that they're willing to risk their own safety in the game to make sure you're still there. And I think especially
when it's like, because if it's your ally that's maybe not as big of a threat and you're just keeping them as a number and you play an auto for them, I feel like that context might matter a bit. But in this case, Carson is a strong player.
Yeah.
And is being saved by somebody else. That's really difficult to pull off.
Yeah, Jared, thank you so much for the $1.99 donation. Says new favorite Survivor channel, Think Critically. We appreciate that. And like I said to you the other night, any donations that are made, it's never needed, but whenever somebody feels like they want to donate, it goes straight back into the channel as we continue to grow it here. I do have some big plans for the channel. I want to make sure we add more shows down the line on here as well, so that we've got a wider range of shows that we can cover for you, and bring more people on to co-host in the future, or maybe have some of their own shows. Kahuna will be hosting his own show very soon, so look out for that. It's going to be $1 Million Island, Australia, which looks really good. Jake, have you seen the trailer for it yet?
I've heard the name, but I haven't seen the trailer. No.
I'm going to send you the trailer after this, and you need to go check it out. It looks like Survivor meets Squid Games, basically.
Yeah, you've mentioned this, but I haven't seen it.
Looks good. Zuduman says, thank you, glad to be back. Talk with everybody in the chat. Love the new background. Oh yeah, I'm traveling at the moment, Zuduman, so this is my hotel background while I'm traveling. Says, agreed, Scott. And now with him going through, players still trusting him and not targeting him. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane how good he's played. Jay says, is it agreed that Carson is the best player in the early 20s that Survivor has ever had in his early 20s? Well, if you say early 20s, then you've got to go for players that have won the show right first. You got to go for like the Mariannes and the Fabios, and there's been quite a few. Aris was pretty young. He was like 24, I think, when he won. Still early 20s.
Yeah.
Does that count as early? It's not mid-20s yet. So
I would say it counts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but he's up there.
Of others. Maybe
I think
Sophie as well. Sophie was 21.
Oh yes,
when she won.
yes. She was young.
She was really young. Yeah.
I think you should remove the age bracket from Carson. You don't even have to look at it. Like, I know it's impressive for a young person to go out there and play this well, but I think he's one of the best players we've seen. I think he's up there. I really do. I mean, any season, if he doesn't win, any season in the future that they do a returnee season, I feel like Carson's on the list. I think all three of the Tika members are on the list.
Oh, 1,000%. I think if somehow Yam Yam or Carolyn, I think it's one of them. I have a weird feeling that Carson's going to get taken out before the final three. So I'm just going to assume he doesn't in my mind. But if Yam Yam or Carolyn then doesn't win and they don't come back in the future, I will bet my entire bank account that they will. They 100% will.
Let's have a look here. Christian says, I think we are going to have our first person win final immunity and make fire and
I've
lose
seen this
fire
theory.
against Carson. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Jay says, and do you all agree that Jamie got a really weird edit for the 6th place finisher? It's really new era of editing. I'm glad that they kind of they're mixing it up slightly. You don't want the pattern to continue to be, this is the Jesse edit, this is the Omar edit. You need to mix it up. Keep us on our toes with that. So it's a good thing. Danica saying, I hope the final tribal is not harsh. Sometimes the speeches can be brutal. Agreed. Danica is saying, anyone know what happened to Macy 76? They started showing some. So Macy 76, I believe, also showed Australian Survivor on YouTube. So I think what happened is that they probably got targeted by Channel 9. I think is the one that, and Kahuna might be able to help me. I think is the one who probably is showing it. So he's saying VPN or Fire maybe when it's airing, organize something down low for
we have to. Legal purposes, we do not condone.
Yeah, we do not condone piracy on here. But I will say this, that there is ways that you can get your hands on those shows. So, reach out to people in the live chat maybe and ask for help. But there is ways that you can watch it. The best one is VPN. If you can get a VPN, you can actually just go onto the channels in Australia and just watch it for free online. I don't even think you need to sign up to watch it. So it's pretty straightforward. That's how I watch the shows from New Zealand. I just VPN to Sydney and watch it that way. So trying to think if there was anything else that we have not spoken about from this episode. Anything that sort of stood out to you? I feel like we spoke about all the main points, unless I forgot something. Is there anything in the live that you guys wanted us to cover for this episode as well? I think the big overarching storyline this specific episode was Yam Yam. He knows he needs to take a shot. He didn't take the shot. There were 2 plans potentially in place. Carson and Carolyn were the 2 that were discussed. They're the 2 that are being seen as the biggest threats in the game right now. And Yam Yam, in my opinion, is sitting 3rd in the pecking order. So I'm confused because this whole season when it comes to a draft perspective, and we'll bring the draft up next, I thought maybe I get some points in the end because Yam Yam might still win this thing. Now I'm not too sure about that. I don't know if I can bank on it.
Yeah, I definitely feel less confident in Yam Yam after this episode if I were you. But definitely you should be more confident than me because I lost one of my 2 final players, and the only one left is somebody that we have not even considered as an option for winning. So
yeah, it's gonna be a tough end of the game here for us because we are very well and truly in trouble. So
man,
you've lost Jamie. So I'll just take Jamie off the board, which means both you and I have got 1 player left in the game. I've got Yam Yam, you've got Lauren. Kahuna's got Carson, Carolyn, and Heidi still in the game at this point.
man,
Which
he's kicking our butts.
yeah, it's a rookie season for him, but he's coming in like he's played this game many a times before. He's like Boston Rob coming into Redemption Island and just schooling us all over the place right now. Let's look at the points so far. So I've been trailing this whole season. I'm still trailing at a total of 228.5 points with 1 player left in the game. I am officially 84.5 points behind the leading team at this stage, which we all know who that is. That's Kahuna. You're 69.5 points behind him, and you're sitting at 243.5 points. Kahuna is sitting on 313 points, but we are heading into finale week, and that means that there are going to be some bonus points that are going to come up for play. So how this whole season has worked, for those that are new to the channel, if you had a confessional for your player, 1 point. Team challenge wins, 5 points. Individual immunity wins, 8 points. Making the merge was 5 points. Successful advantage plays was 10 points. Finding an advantage was 5 points. Votes against you was minus 0.5. The runner-up for the season will get 25 points, and the winner will get 50 points. For the first time ever, we have got the risk, and this has never happened, even with this point system, Jake. For the first time ever, we may have someone with a winner that won't win the game because Kahuna is that far ahead already. But as it stands right now, for the bonus points, the player with the most confessionals going into the final week is Yam Yam. The player with the most individual immunity wins is a draw between Franny and Lauren, both 2. Most advantages found is a draw between yourself and Kahuna. You both have got players, and it's all equal, but it's going to be 125 points for that. So at the moment, you both get both of that. Least votes casted against them is Lauren. So you potentially could get more bonus points there. And then most advantages played correctly is a draw between Josh and Brandon. So overall, I believe if the points remain the way it is, the only hope we have is for you at this point. Mathematically, I almost feel like you have to win with Lauren for us to have a chance to beat Kuna at this point, because I don't even know if I can win, even if Yam Yam does win the end.
I can't even think of a possibility where I win. Maybe, yeah, if Yam Yam wins, even then, he probably has
Get him out of the life. Kick him out of here. It's going to be tough.
It's over.
Okay, so let's have a look. A few more of the chats here. Jared saying, I love Carolyn. Hope to meet her someday. Yes, same. I love her as well. I think she's been a great addition to the show. Danica is saying, yes, I was really disappointed that it's gone. It's so stupid we can't watch each other's shows. Yeah, they make it hard. But Danica, there is ways. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Reach out to some people. They may be able to help. Jay says, Carolyn had a shot of her looking at fire in the promo for the finale. Does she end up making fire? There's a lot of theories about Heidi, like Carolyn, people. Carson.
Yam Yam even apparently had it in his glasses.
They're playing with us at this point. They're just playing with us. Zudaman saying, what's your opinion on the season overall, seeing as the finale is next week? Yeah, we'll talk about that. I think that it's best we leave our overall thoughts for next week. We're going to have some great guests on the channel as well. For the first time ever, we'll have the Survivor Scholars on the channel, and they're going to be sitting down with both myself and Jake to talk about the finale week and the overall season. So we'll probably get into that. But overall, like, there's been things I've liked and there's been things I haven't liked, to tease you. Is this the best season yet? I don't know. I at this point
of the new era.
yeah, I don't know yet. I actually really enjoyed 43, which I know Jeff didn't like. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I won't spoil my thoughts.
I enjoyed 42. 41 I wasn't a big fan of. So I don't know. Like I at this point I can't say 43 or 42 is ahead of 44 or not, but I think we have to wait for next week before we make that judgment.
We have to look at the season as a whole. I think that's going to definitely affect how we feel.
I think so, yeah. Jared saying, wow, so finale discussion will be next week. It's ending too quickly. Yeah, it is. But before we know it, it's going to be back. I saw something online for they're starting to cast for Survivor. There's an open casting call somewhere that I saw this weekend for Survivor 47. So they're like skipping 46. So I'm wondering, does that mean that 46 is a returnee season?
Well, Survivor 46 is, I believe, filming right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they 45 just got finished filming, and they
do we know anything yet? Do we know anything about casting?
We know the cast. We know the cast.
Is it a returnee? Is it returnee or none?
45 is all newbies. Well, actually, Bruce from this season is on 45.
Yeah, but 46. Do we know the cast for 46?
We don't know. We don't know about 46. We only know 45. Oh. We only know the cast after they return from filming. I believe 46 is filming right now.
Yeah.
So we don't, but we don't know. It could be returnee.
No, let's hope. Jay's saying if Carolyn does return, well, now that I think about it, if it's filming now, there's a lot of Survivor events happening right now. Players being out there, so you'd be able to pretty quickly know which players. Like Owen is doing a recap on RAP this weekend, so if they're filming right now, Owen's not out there. I can tell you that much. If it's a returnee season.
Yeah.
Jay saying, if Carolyn does return for second chance, do you all think people could potentially not be into her as much since they got a lot from her this season, like how people got enough of Russell after some time? It's possible, but I feel like Carolyn is different. Like, I mean, Russell was obnoxious. Even though I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to be here and lie and say I wasn't a Russell fan when he played the first two times. I really enjoyed what he brought to the game. But I think that you either like that or you didn't. Like, Russell was kind of polarizing from the beginning, I think. There were people who loved him and there were people who really didn't like him, right? Where Carolyn, sure. I feel like Carolyn's got way more people liking her than disliking her.
Well, and the thing about Russell is he just kept claiming, I'm the best to ever play this game. I should have won both times. The game is flawed. It's rigged against me. Carolyn isn't going to do any of that.
People should have voted and, Anyways.
The game is flawed because Sandra was able to win twice, Carolyn's not going to be, talking like that.
Jared saying Carolyn is like a new breath of fresh air in this game. Unless she changes in personality, I think the only reason people would want her out is because she plays a hard game to beat. Yep, I agree. Jay says true, but they showed Carolyn in particular looking at fire. Yeah, we saw that. Danica saying, Chris, I'll reach out in June when I start my next project and need to binge shows. Still need to watch SA and NZ shows and the early Australia. Yeah, 100%. Reach out. I can set you up. Let's have a look if there's anything else here. Cash was saying, agreed, like 42, 43. I really like this one. 41 was meh. 39, was a dumpster fire. It's the one that we should be forgetting about. Jay saying number 46 wouldn't start filming so quickly. Do we feel a writer's strike affects season 46? It could. I mean, it depends on how long it's going to go for, right? We don't know that yet. Maybe a fan versus favorites for 46. I'm hoping that they just do a returning season. I'm not a big fans versus favorites fan personally. I don't like it that much, which is probably the reason why if I ever play it, I'll probably end up on a season such as that, just because I've been dogging it for so long.
Yep, it's only fitting.
Zuduman says, okay, let's have a look if there's any more here. Owen's going to be on Survivor Specialist this week too. All right, so he's definitely not out on the island. Jared says the viewers should have a percentage of the votes. Classic Russell. Yep. The most funny thing for me with Russell is him trying to talk down on Australian Survivor. It's that vacation camp. It's not an actual, because
They've got a porta potty out there.
Yeah, because he got outplayed because he tried to use the same strategy for a fourth time. He learn.
Yeah, he just got embarrassed. He embarrassed himself out there with putting the idol around his neck.
Yeah.
And then getting voted out with it. Oh,
but even saying all of that, I still think, and this is a separate podcast, but I still think Russell is a legendary Survivor player. Like, he did do big things in the game. You can't erase him from Survivor history, but we can fault him on the fact that he didn't adapt his game and he never learned. All right. I think that is the end here for this specific recap. Thank you so much for everybody in the live for taking part in the conversation. If you like this content, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, putting the notification bell on so you can be informed the next time we go live. The next time we will be live for Survivor will be for the final power rankings of the season. Going into the finale, we'll see if Kahuna and I can get it right in regards to who we think is going to win this season. It's going to be a tough call, and who we think will fall short here this season. And we should be back, I believe, next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. Just keep an eye on it. We'll try and figure out which one of those 2 days work best. On the weekend, myself and Kahuna are going to be back on Saturday evening around 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about the Challenge World Championship finale as well. So keep an eye out for that. And since we're going into the off-season, who knows? We might have 1 or 2 off-season topics here as well, where we try and get a few of us together to talk about some of these wider topics, especially because so many of the live audience have been so great. We could even make it a live Q&A about Survivor, general topics, and we can just answer all your questions. But for now, guys, thank you so much for checking out all the content here tonight. Grab your torches, head back to camp, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.